Hey guys, I'm Tucker from Electric Cycle Rider, and these are the new CZEM Drill One electric dirt bikes. So Triton Electric Bikes sent us a pre-production model last year, which we were able to test, but a lot of changes have been made since then, and we wanted to take the opportunity to run through all the changes that have been made, go do a little test ride, and see what these bikes are all about. Gonna start out on this neon yellow Enduro. So the Enduro's got a 21-inch moto wheel up front and 19 in the rear. Pretty loud color. I like the way that it looks. All right, so to fire this bike up, you've got your magnetic lanyard here. You just connect that guy. You've got your power switch here. You want to power the bike on, and you'll see it's reading 100% battery, all charged up. So from here, you want to select your map. There's 3 different maps, and you can ride in all 3 map modes. Obviously, they go up in power. You've got your green to start, your blue, and your red. And it's not just a power difference. There are some limitations there that I have come to find out about this bike. So the green mode is intended for longer rides. It'll help you conserve battery because it's not pulling as much power, and it's a pretty much unlimited ride in that mode. When you bump up to the blue mode here, you're going to have an increase in power, but you have a little bit more limitation. It is limited to full throttle at 60 seconds. So you don't want to be wide open for more than 60 seconds in blue mode, but that's their intended map for off-road riding. If you're going to be going over steep terrain or some obstacles where you need the max amount of power, you've got your red mode here, which throws all the power at the motor. There is also a limitation in red mode. Come to find out that you cannot be at full throttle for more than 20 seconds in red mode. So we'll run through and try all 3 modes, but was suggested for me to start out and talk about the bike in green mode. So we'll start there, see how that is, and talk about some changes. So the green mode's pretty mellow. You can grab a handful, and you're not going to get the front wheel off the ground or anything like that. It is pretty subdued, but on a track like this, kind of forces you to keep your momentum in corners. So I'm fully tapped coming out of these corners right now, like taking a full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, off the throttle. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I like the ergonomics of this bike. It does feel comfortable. It's light and easy to ride. I like the body positioning, and they have made some changes to the frame. They made some longer top tubes, which is supposed to help with ergonomics and speed. They also repositioned the foot pegs a little bit to help with that as well. It's been a while since I've ridden the pre-production model, if I'm honest, so couldn't quite tell you how different that feels, but the most important part is that it just feels good. So no big qualms here with the ergos on the bike. You still have that adjustability with the rear shock, which I will mess around with a little bit. You can change the orientation of where the top of the shock mounts to the frame, and that will slacken or steepen the head tube angle. So it looks like it's in a pretty steep setting stock, so I might slacken that out a little bit, see how that rides. This bike has a really narrow wheelbase, and slackening out the head tube a little bit should give it a little bit more wheelbase in theory. Kind of push the front wheel out a little bit further, and I think I would like that. It won't make the bike turn as sharp, but that's okay, because this is a very sharp turning bike already. It's got the 21-inch front wheel with Maxxis tires front and rear, 19-inch wheel in the rear, and tires are pretty decent. Not my favorite combo of tires, but that can easily be swapped out. I do really like this seat. It's really nice because you come into a corner like this, you can really get up on the front of the bike, and you have a place to comfortably sit when you do that. So ergonomics of this bike are pretty great. Definitely a fan. It's got the same suspension as the pre-production model that I rode. It's got the Manitou Dorado up front and an Elka rear shock. I really like the Manitou Dorado. I think it's a great fork. It's really adjustable, so you can do high speed and low speed compression and rebound. It's an upside down fork design, which I think is the best choice for these types of bikes. And yeah, great fork. To be fair, I don't know a ton about the Elka shock, but it's pretty burly and yeah, it feels pretty nice. Bike feels like it holds up really good over these kind of chattery bumps and things. So it appears that in the green mode, you are getting a top speed of about 30 miles an hour, what I'm noticing, which on a track like this is pretty good. Don't need to be going much faster than 30 miles an hour through here. Okay, so just riding the bike here. I don't know how many minutes that was, but it's overheating. So that's not great. All right, so I've put about 10 minutes of ride time on this green mode, and I'm riding pretty wide open on it. Trying to put the bike through its paces a little bit, and I have got an engine temperature level. It's about 80 to 85 degrees out right now, so warm, but yeah, a little concerning that I'm getting that engine temperature light on there. So I'm going to take this thing back to the van. We're going to let it cool off a little bit and go from there. All right guys, back on the Enduro here. I just let it cool off for about 20 minutes in the shade, so I'm going to power it back on, see what type of reading we get. Okay, so not reading any temperature warnings there. Figure I'd take a quick opportunity to talk about expectations on the bike. You know, where I'm riding it right now, this is just a turn track, flat, but I am riding it wide open a bit. And clearly, in these temperatures, the bike is getting a little hot for what I'm doing. So the conclusion is simply knowing what the application is for this bike. When I look at the bike, it screams go fast and ride hard, but what I'm finding out riding this model is that it's probably not the intended case for this bike. Probably slower, technical mountain riding, where you're not going full throttle much, you're not going at high speeds, is where this bike is going to be best suited. In this environment, I'm a little hesitant to put it into the harder hitting maps because it's going to make the bike overheat quicker, but just for a demo, we'll do a quick little lap on the blue and a quick lap on the red. So switching over to blue now. I mean, the bike wakes up substantially. super fun in the blue map. Just shows you how much potential this bike has. And alternatively, I'll switch it over to red now, which is even faster. Blue and red, red especially, are super exciting on this bike. I would like to ride it in red right now, but I should knock it down to blue just to ride it in the next step up. Just knocked it back down to blue. That's probably best suited for this type of track, but it's exciting. It really is. I'm going to try to be a little easier on full throttle because I am trying to be aware of not overheating this bike, but it's got lots of power. It's really fun to ride. Okay, so intended use. It's tough because you're gonna want to ride in these blue and red modes. They are super fun, and the bike is super fast when you're in these power modes. But you do run the risk of overheating the bike, especially in this type of environment. So managing expectations. I don't think that this bike is necessarily the best bike for somebody like me, or somebody who wants to take it on a motocross track, or really open the thing up. But if you're more of a mellow rider, you're not going full throttle too much, kind of taking it easy, maybe riding slower terrain. Even though this bike screams, I want to go fast, it's probably better for a mellow rider. And that's okay. That's why we do these tests. That's why we're figuring it out. But that's what I'm starting to come up with. So there we go. Again, riding it pretty hard in that blue mode, just on a turn track. When I say riding it hard, I'm just giving it a fair amount of throttle. And I got a few minutes in and the bike's overheating. So this bike has got the look, it has got the bling with the suspension, bars, controls, brakes, all that stuff is really sweet on this bike. Really well appointed, sharp bike, cool colors. I think what I've come to find out after doing this test today is just managing expectations on what this bike was designed for. When I look at it, it just screams, go fast and grab a handful of throttle. But come to find out with the power modes and their intended ride times that is not what this bike was built for. This bike appears to be built more for mellow riding in slower, maybe more technical terrain, and not going at, you know, full throttle pace, which is something that a lot of you riders are out there and you're looking for a bike for that type of thing. So if you're not looking to go crazy fast and not looking to grab a handful of throttle, I think this is a really awesome bike. I like the size of it. I like the ergonomics, the geometry, the bars, all the suspension and the brakes I think are really top notch on this bike. But it is not intended to go at high speeds or full throttle for very long. So that is something to be aware of if you're considering this bike. Now, if you decide that you are the rider that is best suited for this bike, they can be found at Triton Electric Bikes, currently for $10,500. So Triton sent this bike up to me to do the review, and they are an awesome group of guys, so go check them out at Triton Electric Bikes. And thank you guys for watching. See ya.